Chapter 3 Race. In the morning, Stile had to report to work for his employer. Keyed up, he did not even feel tired. He knew he could carry through the afternoon race, then let down, with her beside him. Sheen stayed close, like an insecure date. The tube was crowded, for employment time was rush hour. They had to stand. This morning, of all mornings, he would have preferred to sit. That tended to equalize heights. The other passengers stood a head taller than Stile and crowded him almost unconsciously. One glanced down at him, dismissed him without effort, and fixed his gaze on Sheen. She looked away, but the stranger persisted, nudging closer to her. "Lose yourself," she muttered, and took Stile's arm possessively. Embarrassed, the stranger faced away, the muscles of his buttocks tightening. It had never occurred to him that she could be with so small a man. This was an air tube, crowded against the capsule wall. Stile held Sheen's hand and looked out. The tube was transparent, its rim visible only as a scintillation. Beyond it was the surface of the planet of Proton, as bright and bleak as a barren moon. He was reminded of the day before, when he had glimpsed it at the apex of the slide. His life had changed considerably since then, but Proton? Not at all. It remained virtually uninhabitable outside the force field domes that held in the oxygenated air. The planet's surface gravity was about 2/3 Earth norm, so had to be intensified about the domes. This meant that such gravity was diminished even further between the domes, since it could only be focused and directed, not created or eliminated. The natural processes of the planet suffered somewhat. The result was a wasteland, quite apart from the emissions of the protonite mines. No one would care to live outside a dome. On the street of the suburb dome, another man took note of them. "Hey, Junior, what's her price?" he called. Stile marched by without response, but Sheen couldn't let it pass. "No price. I'm a robot," she called back. The stranger guffawed, and of course, it was funny. No serf could afford to own a humanoid robot, even were ownership permitted or money available. But how much better it was at the game annex, where the glances directed at Stile were of respect and envy, instead of out here where ridicule was an almost mandatory element of humor. At the stable, Stile had to introduce her. "This is Sheen. I met her at the game annex yesterday." The stable boys nodded appreciatively, enviously. They were all taller than Stile, but no contempt showed. He had a crown similar to that of the game here. He did like his work. Sheen clung to his arm possessively, showing the world that her attention and favor were for him alone. It was foolish, he knew, but Stile gloried in it. She was, in the eyes of the world, an exceptionally pretty girl. He had had women before, but none as nice as this. She was a robot. He could not marry her or have children by her. His relationship with her would be temporary. Yet all she had proffered, before he penetrated her disguise, was 2 or 3 years, before they both completed their tenures and had to vacate the planet. Was this so different? He introduced her to his horse. "This is Battleaxe, the orneriest, fastest equine of his generation. I'll be riding him this afternoon. I'll check him out now. He changes from day to day, and you can't trust him from normal signs. Do you know how to ride?" Yes. Of course she did. That was too elementary to be missed. She would be well prepared on horses. "Then I'll put you on Molly. She's retired, but she can still move, and Battleaxe likes her." He signaled to a stable hand. "Saddle Molly for Sheen here. We'll do the loop." "Yes, Stile," the youngster said. Stile put a halter on Battleaxe, who obligingly held his head down within reach, and led him from the stable. The horse was a great dark thoroughbred who stood substantially taller than Stile, but seemed docile enough. He is well trained, Sheen observed. Trained? Yes. Broken? No. He obeys me because he knows I can ride him. He shows another manner to others. He's big and strong, 17 hands tall. That's over 1 3/4 meters at the shoulders. I'm the only one allowed to take him out. They came to the saddling pen. Stile checked the horse's head and mouth, ran his fingers through the luxurious mane, then picked up each foot in turn to check for stones or cracks. There were none, of course. He gave Battleaxe a pat on the shoulder, on the muscular shoulder, opened the shed, and brought out a small half saddle that he sat on the horse's back. No saddle blanket? Sheen asked. No girth? No stirrups? This is only to protect him from any possible damage. I don't need any saddle to stay on, but if my bareback weight rubbed a sore on his backbone, your employer would be perturbed, she finished. Yes, he values his horses above all else. Therefore, I do too. If Battleaxe got sick, I would move into the stable with him for the duration. She started to laugh, then stopped. I am not certain that is humor. It is not. My welfare depends on my employer, but even if it didn't, I would be with the horses. I love horses. And they love you, she said. We respect each other, he agreed, patting Battleaxe again. The horse nuzzled his hair. Molly arrived with conventional bridle, saddle, and stirrups. Sheen mounted and took the reins, waiting for Stile. He vaulted into his saddle, as it could not be used as an aid to mounting. He was, of course, one of the leading gymnasts of the game. He could do flips and cartwheels on the horse, if he had to. The horses knew the way. They walked, then trotted along the path. Stile paid attention to the gait of his mount, feeling the easy play of the muscles. Battleaxe was a fine animal, a champion, and in good form today. Stile knew he could ride this horse to victory in the afternoon. He had known it before he mounted, but he never took any race for granted. He always had to check things out himself. For himself, for his employer, and for his horse. Actually, he had not done his homework properly this time. He had squandered his time making love to Sheen. Fortunately, he was already familiar with the other entrants in this race and their jockeys. Battleaxe was a clear favorite. It wouldn't hurt him to play just one race by feel. Having satisfied himself, Stile now turned his attention to the environment. The path wound between exotic trees, miniature sequoias, redwoods, and Douglas fir, followed by giant flowering shrubs. Sheen passed them with only cursory interest, until Stile corrected her. These gardens are among the most remarkable on the planet. Every plant has been imported directly from Earth at phenomenal expense. The average girl is thrilled at the novelty. Few get to tour this dome. I was too amazed at the novelty to comment, Sheen said, looking around with alacrity. All the way from Earth? Why not simply breed them from standard stock and mutate them for variety? Because my employer has refined tastes in horses and in plants. He wants originals. Both these steeds were foaled on Earth. I knew citizens were affluent, but I may have underestimated the case, she said. The cost of shipping alone. You forget. This planet has the monopoly on protonite, the fuel of the space age. How could I forget? She glanced meaningfully at him. Are we private here? No. I must inquire anyway. Someone sent me to you. Therefore, there must be some threat to you, unless I represent a service by your employer. Stile snapped his fingers. Who did not bother to explain his loan? I'd better verify, though, because if it was not he... She nodded. Then it could be the handiwork of another citizen. And why would any other citizen have reason to protect you? And from what? If it were actually some scheme to... Oh, Stile, I would not want to be the agent of... I must ask him, Stile said. Then with formal reverence he spoke. Sir? There was a pause. Then a concealed speaker answered from the hedge. Yes, Stile. Sir, I suspect a 1 in 2 probability of a threat to me or to your horses. May I elucidate by posing the question? Now. The voice was impatient. Sir, I am accompanied by a humanoid robot programmed to guard me from harm. Did you send her? No. Then another citizen may have done so. My suspicion is that a competitor could have sugar-coated a bomb. No! Sheen cried in horror. Get that thing away from my horses, the citizen snapped. My security squad will handle it. Sheen, dismount and run, Stile cried. Away from us until the squad hails you. She leaped out of the saddle and ran through the trees. Sir, Stile said. What is it now, Stile? The impatience was stronger. I plead, be gentle with her. She means no harm. There was no answer. The citizen was now tuning in on the activity of his security squad. Stile could only hope. If this turned out to be a false alarm, he would receive a reprimand for his carelessness in bringing Sheen to these premises unverified, and she might be returned to him intact. His employer was cognizant of the human factor in the winning of races, just as Stile was aware of the equine factor. There was no point in prejudicing the spirit of a jockey before a race. But if Sheen did in fact represent a threat, such as an explosive device planted inside her body and concealed from her knowledge, Stile waited where he was for 10 minutes, while the 2 horses fidgeted, aware of his nervousness. He had certainly been foolish. He should have checked with his employer at the onset before he first caught on that Sheen was a robot. Had not his liking for her blinded him, as perhaps it was supposed to, he would have realized immediately that a robot-covered bomb would make a mockery of her prime directive to guard him from harm. How could she protect him from her own unanticipated destruction? Yet now he was imposing on her another rape. She is clean, the concealed speaker said. I believe one of my friends has played a practical joke on me. Do you wish to keep her? Sir, I do. Stile felt immense relief. The citizen was taking this with good grace. Again, there was no response. The citizen had better things to do than chat with errant serfs. But in a moment, Sheen came walking back through the foliage. She looked the same, but as she reached him, she dissolved into tears. Stile jumped down and took her in his arms. She clung to him desperately. Oh, it was horrible, she sobbed. They raided me and took off my head and dismantled my body. The security squad is efficient, Stile agreed. But they put you back together again, as good as before. I can't believe that. Resoldered connections aren't as strong as the originals, And I think they damaged my power supply by shorting it out. I spoke of rape last night, but I did not know the meaning of the term. And this was the gentle treatment. Had Stile not pleaded for her, and had he not been valuable to the citizen, Sheen would have been junked without compunction. It would not have occurred to the citizen to consider her feelings, or even to realize that a robot had feelings. Fortunately, she had turned out clean, no bomb or other threat in her, and had been restored to him. He had been lucky. Sir, thank you. Just win that race, the speaker said grumpily. There it was, without even the effort to conceal it. The moment Stile's usefulness ended, he would be discarded with no further concern. He had to keep winning races. You pleaded for me, Sheen said, wiping her eyes with her fingers. You saved me. I like you, Stile admitted awkwardly. And I love you. And oh, Stile, I can never. He halted her protestations with a kiss. What use to dwell on the impossible? He liked her and respected her, but they both knew he could never, this side of sanity, actually love a machine. They remounted and continued their ride through the lush gardens. They passed a quaint, ornate fountain with a stone fish jetting water from its mouth, and followed the flow to a glassy pond. Sheen paused to use the reflection to clean up her face and check for damage, not quite trusting the expertise of the security squad. Twice I have accused you falsely, Stile began, deeply disturbed. No, Stile. The second time, I accused me. It could have been, a programmed directive to guard you from harm, with an unprogrammed, strictly mechanical booby trap to do the opposite. Or to take out the citizen himself when we got close enough. We had to check. But, oh, I feel undone. Nevertheless, I owe you one, he said. You are a machine, but you do have rights. Ethical rights, if not legal ones. You should not have been subjected to this sort of thing. And if I had been alert, I would have kept you off my employer's premises until... He shrugged. I would never have put you through this, had I anticipated it. I know you wouldn't, she said. You have this foolish concern for animals and machines. She smiled wanly. Then she organized herself and remounted Molly. Come on, let's canter. They cantered. Then the horses got the spirit of competition and moved into a full gallop, pretending to race each other. They had felt the tension and excitement of the bomb investigation without comprehending it, and now had surplus energy to let off. Arcades and mini jungles and statuary sped by, a wonderland of wealth, but no one cared. For the moment, they were free, the four of them, charging through their own private world, a world where they were man and woman, stallion and mare, in perfect harmony. Four minds with a single appreciation. Too soon it ended. They had completed the loop. They dismounted and Stile turned Battle Axe over to a groom. Walk him down. He's in fine fettle, but I'll be racing him this afternoon. Give Molly a treat. She's good company. That's all? Sheen inquired as they left the premises. You have time off? My time is my own, so long as I win races. The horse is ready. Odds are we'll take that race handily. I may even avoid a reprimand for my carelessness, though the citizen knows I know I deserve one. Now I have only to prepare myself. How do you do that? One guess, he said, squeezing her hand. Is that according to the book? Depends on the book. I like that book. Must be hard on normal girls, though. He snorted. She was well aware he had not had normal girls in his apartment for a long time, not on a live in arrangement. Back at that apartment, she went about her toilet. Now that she no longer had to conceal her nature from him, she stopped eating. There was no sense wasting food. But she had to dispose of the food she had consumed before. Her process of elimination resembled the human process, except that the food was undigested. She flushed herself by drinking a few liters of water and passing it immediately through, followed by an antiseptic solution. After that, she was clean, literally. She would need water only to recharge her reserve of tears. She did not perspire. Stile knew about all this because he knew about robots. He did not further degrade her appearance of life by asking questions. She had privacy when she wanted it, as a human woman would have. He did wonder why the security squad had bothered to reassemble her complete with food. Maybe they had concentrated on her metal bones rather than the soft tissues, and had not actually deboweled her. He treated her as he would a lady, yet as he became more thoroughly aware that she was not human, a certain reserve was forming like a layer of dust on a once bright surface. He liked her very well, but his emotion would inevitably become platonic in time. He tried to conceal this from her, but she knew it. My time with you is limited, she said, yet let me dream while I may. Stile took her and held her and let her dream. He knew no other way to lessen her long-term tragedy. In the afternoon, they reported to the racetrack. Here the stables of several interested citizens were represented, with vid and hollow pickups so that these owners could watch. Stile did not know what sort of betting went on among citizens, or what the prize might be. It was his fob merely to race and win, and this he intended to do. Serfs filled the tiered benches. They had no money to bet, of course, but bets were made for prestige and personal favors, much as they were in connection with the game. The serfs of citizens with racing entries were commonly released from other duties to attend the races, and of course they cheered vigorously for the horses of their employers. A horse race, generally, was a fun occasion. You may prefer to watch from the grandstand, Stile told Sheen. Why? Am I not allowed near the horses? You're allowed when you're with me, but the other guys may razz you. She shrugged. She always did that extremely well, with a handsome bounce. I can't guard you from harm if I am banished to the stands. I gave you fair warning. Just remember to blush. Battleaxe was saddled and ready. No token equipment now. This was the race. He gave a little whinny when he saw Stile. Stile spoke to him for several minutes, running his hands along the fine muscles, checking the fittings and the feet. He knew everything was in order. He was only reassuring the horse, who could get skittish amid the tension of the occasion. We're gonna win this one, Axe, he murmured, almost crooning, and the horse's ears swiveled like little turrets to orient on him as he spoke. Just take it nice and easy, and leave these other nags behind. The other jockeys were doing the same for their steeds, though their assurances of victory lacked conviction. They were all small, like Stile, and healthy, all miniature athletes, the fittest of all sportsmen. One looked across his stall, spying Sheen. Got a new filly, Stile? Then the others were on it. She sure looks healthy, Stile. How's she ride? Is she hot in the stretch? Pedigreed. Good breeder? Doesn't buck too much on the curves. There was more, and less restrained. Sheen remembered to blush. They relented. Stile always does run with the best, the first one called, and returned his attention to his own horse. Did you say best or bust? Another inquired. We always do envy his steeds, another said, but we can't ride them the way he can. No doubt, Sheen agreed, and they laughed. You have now been initiated, Stile informed her. They're good guys when you get to know them. We compete fiercely on the track, but we understand each other. We're all of a kind. Soon the horses were at the starting gate. The jockeys mounted on their high stirrups, knees bent double in the relaxed position. The crowd hushed. There was a race every day, but the horses and jockeys and sponsors differed. And the crowd was always excited. There was a fascination about horse racing that had been with man for thousands of years. Stile was sure, and he felt it too. The glamour and uncertainty of competition, the extreme exertion of powerful animals, the sheer beauty of running horses. Ah, what could match it? Then the gate lifted and they were off. Now he was up posting high, head the same level as his back, his body staying at the same elevation though the horse rocked up and down with effort. The key was in the knees, flexing to compensate and in the balance. It was as if he were floating on battle axe, providing no drag against the necessary forward motion, like riding the waves of a violent surf, steady amidst the commotion. This was routine for Stile, but he loved it. He experienced an almost sexual pitch of excitement as he competed, riding a really good animal. He saw, from the periphery of his vision, the constant rocking of the backs of the other horses, their jockeys floating above them, so many chips on the torrent. The audience was a blur, falling away to the rear, chained to the ground. Reality was right here, the center of action, heart of the drifting universe. Ah, essence. Battleaxe liked room, so Stile let him lunge forward, clearing the press as only he could do. Then it was just a matter of holding the lead. This horse would do it. He resented being crowded or passed. All he needed was an understanding hand, guidance at the critical moment, and selection of the most promising route. Stile knew it. The other jockeys knew it. Unless he fouled up, this race was his. He had the best horse. Stile glanced back with a quick turn of his head. His body continued the myriad invisible compensations and urgings required to maximize equine output, but his mind was free. The other horses were not far behind, but they were already straining, their jockeys urging them to their futile utmost, while Battleaxe was loafing. The lead would begin to widen at the halfway mark, then stretch into a runaway. The citizen would be pleased. Maybe the horse had been primed by the attention this morning, the slight change in routine, the mini race with Molly. Maybe Stile himself was hyped, and Battleaxe was responding. This just might be a race against the clock, bettering this horse's best time. That would certainly please the citizen, but Stile was not going to push. That would be foolish when he had the race so readily in hand. Save the horse for another day, when it might be a choice between pushing and losing. He was a full length ahead as they rounded the first turn. Battleaxe was moving well indeed. It would not be a course record, but it would be a quite respectable time, considering the lack of competition. Other citizens had made fabulous offers for this horse, Stile knew, but of course, he was not for sale. The truth was, Battle would not win races if he were sold, unless Stile went with him. Because Stile alone understood him, the horse would put out gladly for Stile, and no one else. There were a number of jockeys who could run a race as well as Stile, but none matched his total expertise. Stile could handle a difficult horse as well as an easy one, bareback as well as saddled. He loved horses, and they liked him. There was a special chemistry that worked seeming miracles on the track. Badlax had been a brute, uncontrollable, remarkably apt with teeth and hoof. He could kick without warning to front, side, and rear. He could bite suddenly, not even laying his ears back. He had learned to conceal his intention. He had broken 3 trainers, possessing such demonic strength and timing that they could neither lead him nor remain mounted. Stile's employer, sensing a special opportunity, had picked Badlax up nominally for stud, but had turned him over to Stile. The directive? Convert this monster to an effective racer. No effort spared. For this animal was not only mean and strong, he was smart. A few wins would vastly enhance his stud value. Stile had welcomed the challenge. He had lived with this horse for 3 months, grooming him and feeding him by hand, allowing no other person near. He had used no spurs, no electric prods, only the cutting edge of his voice in rebuke, and he had been absolutely true to this standard. He carried a whip, which he used only on any other animal that annoyed Badlax, never on Badlax himself. This horse was king, yet subject to Stile's particular discipline. Badlax evolved the desire to please Stile, the first man he could trust, and it did not matter that the standards for pleasing Stile were rigorous. Stile was, the horse came to understand, a lot of man. Then came the riding. Badlax was no novice. He knew what it was all about, and tolerated none of it. When Stile set up to ride him, their relationship entered a new and dangerous phase. It was a challenge. Was this to be a creature-to-creature friendship, or a rider and steed acquaintance? Badlax discouraged the latter. When Stile mounted him, the horse threw him. There were not many horses who could throw Stile even once, but Badlax had a special knack, born of his prior experience. This was not a rodeo, and Stile refused to use the special paraphernalia relating thereto. He tackled Badlax bareback, using both hands to grip the mane, out in the open where motion was unrestricted. No man had ever given this horse such a break before. Stile mounted again, springing aboard like the gymnast he was, and was thrown again. He was not really trying to stay on. He was trying to tame the animal. It was a competition between them, serious but friendly. Stile never showed anger when thrown, and the horse never attacked him. Stile would hold on for a few seconds, then take the fall rather than excite the horse too much. He usually maneuvered to land safely, often on his feet, and remounted immediately, and was thrown again, and remounted again, laughing cheerily, until the horse was unsure whether any of those falls were genuine or merely a game. And finally, Badlax relented and let him ride. Even then, Stile rode bareback, scorning to use saddle or tether or martingale or any other paraphernalia. He had to tame this animal all by himself. But here the citizen interposed. The horse would not be permitted in the races without regulation saddle and bridle. He must be broken to them. So Stile, with apologies and misgivings, introduced Badlax to the things that had never stood between them before. It was a disaster. Badlax felt Stile had betrayed him. He still permitted the man to ride, but it was no longer so polite. When the bridle came near, Badlax would swing his head about and bite. When he was being saddled, he would kick. But Stile had not learned about horses yesterday. Though Badlax tried repeatedly, he could never quite get a tooth on Stile's hand. When he kicked, Stile dodged and caught the foot, and held it up, leg bent. In that position, even a 50-kilo man could handicap a 750-kilo horse. Badlax, no dummy, soon learned the futility of such expressions of ire, though Stile never really punished him for the attempts. The embarrassment of failing was punishment enough. What was the use of bucking off a rider who would not stay bucked? Or kicking at a man who always seemed to know the kick was coming well before it started? Through all this, Stile continued to feed Badlax, water him, and bring him snacks of salt and fruit, always speaking gently. Finally, the horse gave up his last resistance. For the sake of the friendship and respect they shared, Stile could at last saddle him and ride without challenge of any kind. The insults were dealt to other horses and their riders in the form of leaving them behind. The attacks were transferred to other people, who soon learned not to fool with this particular horse. Once the citizen himself visited the stable, and Stile, in a cold sweat, calmed the horse, begged him to tolerate this familiarity, for a bite at the employer would be instant doom. But the citizen was smart enough to keep his hands off the horse, and there was no trouble. The winning of races commenced, a regular ritual of fitness. The prospective stud fee quintupled and climbed again with every victory. But Badlax had been befriended, not broken. Without Stile, this would be just another unmanageable horse. And Stile, because of his success with Badlax, had become recognized as the top jockey on Proton. His employment contract rivaled the value of the horse itself. That was why the citizen catered to him. Stile, like Badlax, performed better when befriended, rather than when forced. "We're a team, Axe," he murmured, caressing the animal with his voice. Badlax would have a most enjoyable life when he retired from racing, with a mare in every stall. Stile would have a nice bonus payment when his tenure ended. He would be able to reside on some other planet a moderately wealthy man. Too bad that no amount of wealth could buy the privilege of remaining on Proton. They came out of the turn, still gaining, and Stile felt a momentary pain in his knees, as though he had flexed them too hard. They were under tension, of course, bearing his weight, springing it so that he did not bounce with the considerable motions of this powerful steed. The average man could not have stood up long to this stress, but Stile was under no unusual strain. He had raced this way hundreds of times, and he took good care of his knees. He had never been subject to stress injuries. Therefore, he tried to dismiss it. The sensation must be a fluke. But it could not be dismissed. Discomfort progressed to pain, forcing him to uncramp his knees. This unbalanced him and put the horse off his pace. They began to lose ground. Badlax was confused, not understanding what Stile wanted, aware that something was wrong. Stile tried to resume the proper position, but his knees got worse, the pain becoming intense. He had to jerk his feet out of the stirrups and ride more conventionally, using saddle and leg pressure to maintain his balance. The horse lost more ground, perplexed, more concerned about his rider than the race. Stile had never before experienced a problem like this. The other horses were overhauling Badlax rapidly. He tried to lift his feet back into the stirrups for a final effort, but pain shot through his knees the moment he put pressure on them. It was getting worse. His joints seemed to be on fire. Now the other horses were abreast, passing him. Stile could do nothing. His weight, unsprung, was interfering with his steed's locomotion. Badlax was powerful, but so were the competing animals. The difference between a champion and an also ran was only seconds, and Badlax was not even trying to race anymore. He hardly had a chance with his handicap. All too soon, it was over. Stile finished last, and the track monitors were waiting for him. Surf Stile, give cause why you should not be penalized for malfeasance. They thought he had thrown the race. Bring a medic! Check my knees! Horse is all right! A med robot rolled up and checked his knees. Laser burn, the machine announced. Crippling injury. Not that crippling. Stile found he could walk without discomfort and bend his knees part way without pain. There was no problem with weight support or control. He merely could not flex them far enough to race a horse. Sheen ran to him. Oh, Stile, what happened? I was lasered, he said, just beyond the turn. And I did not protect you, she exclaimed, horrified. The track security guard was surveying the audience with analysis devices. Stile knew it would be useless. The culprit would have moved out immediately after scoring. They might find the melted remains of a self-destruct laser rifle, or even of a complete robot set to tag the first rider passing a given point. There would be no tracing the source. Whoever sent me knew this would happen, Sheen said. Oh, Stile, I should have been with you. Racing a horse? No way. There's no way to stop a laser strike except to be where it isn't. Race voided, the public address system announced. There has been tampering. The audience groaned. A portly citizen walked onto the track. All the serfs gave way before him, bowing. His full dress made his status immediately apparent. It was Stile's employer. Sir, Stile said, beginning his obeisance. Keep those confounded knees straight, the citizen cried. Come with me. I'm taking you directly to surgery. Good thing the horse wasn't hurt. Numbly, Stile followed the citizen, and Sheen came too. This was an extraordinary occurrence. Citizens hardly ever took a personal hand in things. They entered a citizen capsule, a plush room inside with deep jungle scenery on every wall. As the door closed, the illusion became complete. The capsule seemed to move through the jungle, slowly. A great tiger stood and watched them, alarmingly real in 3 dimensions, then was left behind. Stile realized that this was a representation of a gondola on the back of an elephant. So realistic was the representation that he thought he could feel the sway and rock as the elephant walked. Then a door opened, as it were in midair, and they were at the hospital complex. Rapidly, without any relevant sense of motion, for the slow gondola could hardly have matched the sonic velocity of the capsule, they had traveled from the racetrack dome to the hospital dome. The chief surgeon was waiting, making his own obeisance to the citizen. Sir, we have those knees replaced within the hour, he said. Genuine cultured cartilage, guaranteed non-immunoreactive, stasis anesthesia without side effect. Yes, you're competent. You'd be fired otherwise, the citizen snapped. Just get on with it. Make sure the replacements conform exactly to the original. I don't want him disqualified from future racing because of modification. He returned to his capsule, and in a moment was gone. The surgeon's expression hardened as the citizen's presence abated. He stared down at Stile, contemptuously, though the surgeon was merely another naked serf. It was that element of height that did it, as usual. Let's get on with it, he said, unconsciously emulating the phrasing and manner of the citizen. The doxy will wait here. Sheen clutched Stile's arm. I mustn't be separated from you again, she whispered. I can't protect you if I'm not with you. The surgeon's hostile gaze fixed on her. Protect him from what? This is a hospital. Stile glanced at Sheen, beautiful and loving and chastened and concerned for him. He looked at the arrogantly tall surgeon, about whose aristocratic mouth played the implication of a professional sneer. The girl seemed much more human than the man. Stile felt guilty about not being able to love her. He needed to make some act of affirmation supporting her. She stays with me, he said. Impossible. There must be no human intrusion in the operating room. I do not even enter it myself. I monitor the process via holography. Stile, Sheen breathed. The threat to you is real. We know that now. When you separated from me in race, it was disaster. I must stay with you. You are wasting my valuable time, the surgeon snapped. We have other operations scheduled. He touched a panel on the wall. Hospital security. Remove obnoxious female. Sheen was technically correct. The attack on him had been made when he was apart from her. He did need her protection. Any accident could happen to him. Perhaps he was being paranoid. Or maybe he just didn't like the attitude of the tall doctor. Let's get out of here, he said. The security squad arrived. 4 husky neuter androids. Hospital's favorite androids, or artificial men, because they seemed human despite their laboratory genesis. This reassured the patients somewhat, but they were not really human, which reassured the administration. No one ever got raped or seduced by a neuter android, and no one ever applied to an android for reassurance. Thus, the patients were maintained in exactly the sterile discomfort that was ideal hospital procedure. Take the little man to surgery, cell B11, the doctor said. Take the woman to detention. The 4 advanced. Each was tall, beardless, breastless, and devoid of any primary sexual characteristics. Each face was half smiling, reassuring, gentle, calm. Androids were smiling idiots. Since as yet no synthetic human brain had been developed that could compare to the original, it was useless to attempt to argue or reason. The creatures had their order. Stile caught the first by the right arm, whirled, careful not to bend his knees, and threw it to the floor with sufficient force to stun its sturdy, uncomplicated brain. He sidestepped the next and guided it into the doctor. Had the surgeon known he was dealing with a game specialist, he would not so blithely have sent his minions into the fray. Sheen dispatched her 2 androids as efficiently, catching one head in each hand and knocking the 2 heads together with precise force. She really was trained to protect a person. Stile had not really doubted this, but had not before had the proof. The surgeon was struggling with the android Stile had sent. The stupid creature mistook him for the subject to be borne away to surgery. Idiot, get off me! Stile and Sheen sprinted down the corridor. You realize we're both in trouble, he called to her as the commotion of pursuit began. It was a considerable understatement. She remembered to laugh.